So, you are about to write your personal statement and you realize that you have no idea how to start your introduction. What do you include? What do you write to stand out from other candidates? What do you do to avoid cliches? What content should you put in your introduction? There is very little guidance out there on the internet. And so this is your free advice, free training on how to write an introduction for your personal statement. This is going to be the second of many videos I will be making on how to write a personal statement. So if you are interested in that, don't forget to subscribe so you will catch all the other ones. And also go and check out some of the other ones because my other videos, because once you have been shortlisted for an amazing personal statement, you're going to want some support with interviews, and I already have that on my channel too. If you're new here, then hello, welcome. My name is Miss Paris. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a teacher career success mentor. This means I help teachers to secure jobs, whether that's with their personal statement, whether that's with their interviews, whether it's through some of my resources that I've made so that you guys can work on your applications independently. I help with all that jazz. And so if you want to find out more about me, I will leave my social media and my website below so you can go and check out everything I have to say. With that introduction being done, let's talk about your introductions. Let's talk about what an introduction is, its importance, and what you need to include within it. I always say to my clients that the introduction is like the blurb of a book. Okay, they always say don't judge a book by its cover. Well, the front cover of a book is the equivalent to the previous application of those like 12, 13, 14 page applications that we have to fill in. You know, where you talk about your GCSEs, where you talk about previous experience. They're not going to judge you on that. Well, hopefully not. And then the personal statement is like the blurb of a book. It's the first impression that you have of the actual content inside. So you want to make sure it stands out from the other books on the shelves. You want to make sure that actually they're hooked in and they want to find out what's to come. Because if you have a very boring blurb, the likeliness is that you're not going to pick that book to go home and read, and you're also not going to even open the book first of all. Now, I am always going to play devil's advocate because I don't want people to be optimistic and then let down. So let's be brutal here and let's imagine that they have 90 applicants. Okay, it's quite a lot. And they only have time to read your introduction and your conclusion. If you have already written a personal statement, can you reflect on your introduction and think, yeah, they would definitely read on based on my introduction? Some of you might say no. I've read some recent personal statements and they don't even have an introduction. They just go straight into the main body. And it leaves the reader a little bit confused. Like, is this meant to be their introduction? Am I gonna find out about their experience? You know, what's going on? So, the introduction is going to be a brief overview of your experience. I don't want you to give me a narrative of everything you've done. I don't need a chronological report. It can be purely listing any different settings that you've experienced. It can be listing any age groups, key stages, maybe different departments if you're in secondary. They want to know that from the get-go. I have read too many statements where I have got to the end of the conclusion and I still have no idea where they've taught. And that's problematic because you have very specific year groups such as, you know, year 1, year 2 class teacher, but sometimes they're really broad and it just says class teacher. And the reason they've done that is because based on your personal statement, based on the applicant, they might decide where to put you. They might move stuff around. So if they have no inclination of where you've taught or what experience you have, they're unlikely to go through with your application because that should have been clear from the get-go, and also they have no idea where they would place you. That's the number one thing. So you need a brief overview of your experience. And I also mentioned settings. Settings, obviously, you know, you're not just going to say I've done primary school X, primary school Y, primary school Z. No, you want to think about the different things that those schools taught you. So let's say one had a high percentage of EAL students, another maybe had a high percentage of SEN, another one maybe was in a privileged or less privileged area, because all of those things contribute to your general teacher practice because you have to adapt in different ways. So they might want to know that. Another thing that is important is how you end your introduction. So you might be thinking, well, Annalise, what do you mean by that? Basically, the end of your introduction is what's going to draw them into the rest of the body of the personal statement. So I always recommend that between all paragraphs, including the introduction and the first paragraph, you have a beautiful link. Okay, you don't want to randomly, abruptly end on a sentence, start a new paragraph that is completely unrelated and feels very abrupt, maybe rigid, maybe robotic. You don't want that. And so very often, this isn't a set rule, you don't have to do this, but what I find helps is if you end the introduction by talking about your teaching philosophy. Because if you say, my teaching philosophy, let's say, is around creating a warm, welcoming learning environment where children are encouraged to ... You're quite like simplistic in that, you don't expand on it. Your first paragraph can then be elaborating on it. And if you make sure it's one of those key skills and key roles that we have as a teacher, it is a perfect way to then just lead them naturally and they don't even realize they're reading on. Whereas if you end abruptly on an introduction, then you abruptly start a new paragraph, it feels like a chore to keep reading. And that's not something you want. So let's recap. Talk about your experiences. Make sure you have a nice link from your introduction to your first paragraph, and you could also include your teaching philosophy. Or it might be something that really makes you passionate about teaching, and you know you're going to expand on that in the first paragraph. There is also one thing I want to add. I know this isn't specifically linked to the introduction, but you do not need, and please don't, write your personal statement in chronological order. You don't need to start from your university life and then go on to training placement and then go on to maybe ECT1 or supply experiences. You want each paragraph to be skill based. So when you are finishing your introduction and you have that in, you have that in your head of what's going to be your first paragraph, it doesn't have to be about an experience. Your experiences are your examples. And I have spoken about Peel before. Every paragraph needs to be Peel related. I'll leave that video in the description below. And yes, that is a very, very quick stop tour. I want these to be as bite-sized as they can. I realize your time is valuable. There is just one final thing for those that are still watching that I would like to show you that I think will be a real asset to your writing journey. So this is my personal statement workbook. As you can see, it's a good few pages thick. And what I wanted to show you is this timeline. So basically my workbook follows this structure, which is also kind of the structure that I mentioned in my earlier videos about the overview of how to write. So understanding personal statements, self-assessment, this needs to be done before you even start your introduction. And this is where we start our introduction. Now I'm just going to quickly flick through because the page I want to show you is obviously going to be related to your introduction. So here, have a look. I've always done it so that you have space to work and jot ideas, do bullet points, but we've got our brief summary of your experience. You might also want to personalize to the school. This is something that I didn't mention, but actually it's something that I would encourage you to do throughout. So don't feel that you have to personalize to the school in the introduction, and hook them in. How are you going to encourage them to read on? And like I said, link it to paragraph 1. It is so, so important. The personal statement workbook then continues to talk about your paragraphs. It's got aspects to help you with your conclusion, which I also know is very important and people really struggle with that. An area to help you with personalizing to the school, so research. It's got notes on kind of school selling points, etc., etc. All of this I'm going to explain in brief videos like this one, but if you just want to get stuck in and you don't want to wait for me to release videos, then I will leave the link to my personal statement workbook below. If you combine that with the Peel handbook, which is how to structure paragraphs, then actually you save £5 off instead of buying both. I will leave that link for you below. Any questions, please ask me in the comments or contact me on social media. Even on my website, it's very easy to get a hold of me, I promise. And I will see you soon for the next one where we talk about paragraphs, paragraph structure, and what to include in the main body of your statement. If you like this video, please let me know. Give it a like, comment, share, all of that jazz. It really helps me out and also helps me share these videos to a wider audience. So thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Good luck with your writing. Bye bye.